buttons in the wrong order. The dum-dum. Like always, we're starting 15 minutes early. Thank you, Royale, please, for the donation. Well, hello and welcome to Raider HQ After Dark. I'm your host, Raider, and that's a spicy Luna right there. She was very upset today. She did not get her pup cup, and she was very upset. So I took a picture of her because she was sulking. So that is her. And then this was the face that she made when she was begging for it. And then whenever I told her no, well, things went sideways. She's over here laying down. She is very, very, very disgusted with me currently, but she is adorable. She has the best personality of any dog I've ever seen. So there is that. But today's Luna's Day. So tonight, what are we doing? Well, here at Raider HQ, we are currently going to be talking about some stuff. So we're going to talk about some channel stuff. We're going to talk about some rating stuff. And then we're going to talk about what your questions are. An MCM, I know, but she already had one. We were going back because I forgot something, and she thought she got round 2. Now, the one thing is, she can have this face, and this is a skinny dog face. I don't want her to have the diabetes. No Wilford Brimley. Hello, I'm Wilford Brimley, and today we're going to be talking about diabetes. Oh my gosh, I can tell this story actually because I got something funny to tell you guys. So this is a pre-retirement. I worked with Wilford Brimley's relative. One of Wilford Brimley, the diabetes guy, family member, works at the VA. I'm not going to say their name, but they do. And I was I was talking about diabetes in some way, and somebody said, "Hey, look, you shouldn't be saying stuff like that because Wilford Brimley so-and-so is over there." And it just made me laugh. But it's kind of a small world. But today, what I want to talk to you about, what do I want to talk to you about? So the channel has gone up to 11,000. We're currently at 11,058 subscribers. So we're still growing. That is awesome. I love it. We're doing well. The problem that I'm having is answering all your questions. That is always going to be kind of the problem. So there's only so much time in the day. There's only so much I can do to answer them. So I think the Civ Div said whenever we were on the, he said during something, I think it was during when I was on H-Town Vets live podcast. He's like, "Hey, look, I get like 10,000 messages a day." And I'm starting to feel that, like at 11,000 people, you can try to email me, but I've got 1,000 emails in my email currently. And I mean, I've answered a lot of them, but I just can't get to them because it's not like I can say, "Hey, cool, bro, thanks." You give me typically a 3-paragraph synopsis of your situation, and then I've got to look up the response. So it can take 5 to 10 to 15 minutes to do, any kind of answer. But that's why I'm doing the videos, is because I'm hopefully trying to get out as much information as I can to as many people as I can And then if you have like a really one-off situation, I mean, I might be able to answer questions like that. Um, and that's true. Certified vet, that is actually true. If you get here before I start, I like to, get in here like 45 minutes before we go live and I'll answer questions, right? And if it's specifically like a very complex one, I'll come back to it and I'll say, "Hey, look, ask me during the live." Like this one right here. 60 Eye Watcher. Hey, why would the Raider throw out 3 DBQs on Parkinson's disease? One was from a VA doctor, and the other two were civilian neurologist and family doctor. Any clue? I have a lot of clue on this. Okay. I do. I have a lot of clue, and it has to do with any DBQ that's not like uh, that's not a vendor or VHA contracted CMP examiner. Every single one of those have to go through an authenticity, credibility, and sufficiency review. And if they're found to be have anything wrong with them, they can be disqualified. Now, there's a process for that. And whether or not that process was followed is where I take a lot of issue with, because a lot of the VSRs are the ones that, and I find this to be very odd. VSRs are typically the ones that disqualify your medical opinion or your DBQ, your private ones. But they oftentimes don't fully understand what it takes for that to be sufficient, authentic, or credible. And they'll typically find one easy out where your NPI, your doctor's NPI number doesn't match, or, well, the information on the NPI registry doesn't match what is on the actual document. So that's an inauthenticity thing. So if you were to, and I think I'll pull it up here. This is kind of an important thing. So I'm going to spend some time on this topic, because I know with the changes coming up that a lot of you are trying to figure out how the heck to get sleep apnea over the finish line, how to get tinnitus over the finish line, evidence willing, right? But a lot of the time these get disqualified, not for anything to do with medical issues, right? It's not a medical related thing. It's something else entirely. So let me see here. And I also I invited RHG for veterans to come on if they want to, if she wants to. Jackie, I believe, is a nurse practitioner, CMP examiner. I had watched her on she had done a collaboration with Clay, the Civ Div, I think. Yeah, Civ Div. So Clayton on the Civ Div. So because they had done a collaboration, she was in here talking to me. And number one, thank you for the donation. You don't have to donate, Jackie. That's cool. But if Jackie wants to come on, I put the link in the chat earlier before we started. So you're more than welcome to come on and we can talk about stuff. If not, it's cool. I just want to leave that door open. Now, I just squirreled there for a minute, so give me just a second here. So let's look at authenticity and credibility. So let's go ahead and share our screen. Let's remove this. Let's go here. And let's go with authenticity of DBQs. Potential inauthenticity of DBQs. So this right here, and I'm going to make myself smaller, make this bigger, and I'd probably even take the question off of here. But this is why, guys, there's an entire thing here, and a lot of content creators, they don't really go into detail on this, but there is an entire review, multiple phase review that happens of your private DBQ. Now, I know it says while private DBQs that are completed should generally be accepted at face value, They put a comma in there, and then how the VA behaves follows that comma. So there are like everyone gets hung up on this part right here where it says, "Hey, look, this should be taken at face value." If it's sufficient, if it's authentic, and if it's credible, yes, it should be taken at face value. Where the disconnect happens between the veteran community and the staff members is that there are these reviews. So if the examiner has contact information that is unverifiable or contains discrepancies, so what I mean by that is that the examiner's national provider indicator number, let me look it up here, PI registry. So this is the NPI registry. So it's a .gov site. You go here, every single VSR and every single rater will review the NPI number of the person. They'll type in the NPI number right here. The problem is a lot of those providers that completed your private DBQ, that completed all of that stuff, they did not. Yes. Actually, hold on. That's a very good point. Hold on. Many doctors' NPI is a billing address and not their actual location. Correct. But if it's different, like if this particular NPI registry index and what they put on the DBQ are different, then the VSR can disqualify it for being inauthentic. Hold on. Sorry, I'm reading stuff. I'm reading things that are going down because there are a lot of questions. But this is what we're talking about here. We're talking about how I put my question above. Okay. Senior Blues. Okay, we'll hold on to this question for a minute just so I don't lose it, okay? But what I'm saying though is that if you look at this, this gives the VSR the ability to use this particular discrepancy in NPI information and what was put on the DBQ. If there are discrepancies, then it's inauthentic. And inauthenticity can be used to disqualify the private DBQ. It's as easy as that. This is where the 100-mile rule comes in. But see, a lot of people take this out of context. A lot of VSRs take this out of context. A lot of raters take this out of context. QRT also. They say, hey, look, if the veteran lives over 100 miles away, 100 miles, this is where they get that number from. If they live over 100 miles away from the provider, they stop right here and they say, okay, if the veteran lives over 100 miles away, that's inauthentic. That's not what it says. It says if they live over 100 miles and the examiner says that they regularly see the veteran and they treat the veteran regularly, then that is evidence of inauthenticity because it's unreasonable for somebody to drive 100 miles. Well, that's not factually true. If the person that you're going to see is a specialist and you live in a rural area, well, then of course, that's that's the only doctor that can do it, then that's the only doctor that can do it. So what needs to kind of happen, right, is you need to kind of discuss why you see that person all the time. If they're over 100 miles away and you see them all the time, explain why you see that person all the time. I have cancer, and that's the only oncologist close to me, whatever it is. One of the things that I want to kind of put in here just for this inauthenticity thing is now this is I get to say this statement kind of now. It is better if the examiner puts the information that matches the NPI number in their signature line. So when you have a DBQ, and let me pull up one. Sorry, it's taking so long. Okay, so let's go down here. So this is the knee and lower leg DBQ. If you're going to have a private examiner complete it, this is the section where it matters. The law provides severe penalties, which include fine and imprisonment, are both unwillful for willful submission of any statement or evidence of a material fact, knowing it to be false or fraudulent acceptance of payment to which you are not entitled. So if you were just making stuff up, right? But what could be happening here is you can put your NPI information on here, the examiner's address that's on the NPI thing, and have it match up. Typically, it's going to be hard for a private provider to update their NPI registry information. It takes a little while. So, yeah. But there's a lot of reasons why private DBQs can be deemed insufficient. Some of them can be altered. You know, they could look like they're altered or whatnot. But there's an entire process to disqualifying a DBQ that is typically not followed by a lot of VSRs and RVSRs. And sorry, guys, I'm not really looking at the chat currently. So if I'm missing stuff, it's because I'm not looking at it because I'm talking. But one of the other things, so that's just something I wanted to talk about. We'll probably go into this a little bit further about how to tighten up your private DBQs to make them a little more resilient to this review. Because currently, this is why I wanted to go into educating examiners, private doctors or companies or whatnot. This is why I wanted to educate them about this, is because there is an entire multi-step review that could be done for your private DBQ. And if they're not making sure that they check all the boxes, then it's just one easier step for a VSR to disqualify you and send you for an exam. Now, Senior Blues made a question here. The condition I claimed secondary to migraines was initially deferred, but then was denied based upon service connection for migraine, but it was denied 2 days after the higher level review. I'm not sure what the question is. Okay. You might have to do a supplemental claim on that. You can't do another higher level review. So if the primary condition was service connected, then and if it was just an order of operations thing, Senior Blues, then you can do a supplemental claim. But you'll need new evidence for it. Let me make sure of something here. So I'm the only one here. Okay. Now, one of the things I wanted to talk about before we get into kind of answering questions, actually, I have two things. So real quick, hold your questions, please, please, please. Higher level review granted migraines. Okay. Senior Blues, I know I'm going to regret saying this, but send me an email. Mr. Ray, please resend me an email today. I'm going to try to answer anything that was asked of me today in my emails. I'm going to try. I'm going to do my best. I can't make any guarantees, but so a couple of things I wanted to talk about tonight. First, and we're really late into this, but I wanted to talk about my potential anxiety attack that I want to give myself. What would you guys think about me attending the military influencer conference this year? Registering and going to Tampa and spending this time basically using the whatever I get from the what do you call it, the ad revenue, and just going to this event and showing up to it. Now, why would I want to show up to this event? It's for entrepreneurs, content creators, so this would be me. Why would I want to go here? Why would I want to subject myself to this nonsense? Now, why I might want to subject myself to this nonsense is this Yahoo is going to be there. Could you imagine if I could actually try to advocate, like I talk about, how I wish the VFW and the American Legion, how I wish that they would advocate. If I could meet with this man and maybe like in the off chance, like 1 in a billion chance that I might be able to talk to him about potentially making the long form narrative and every single claim thing. It's worth it in my mind. I make no guarantees, but and yeah, the salty old Marine. Hey, how's it going? Yeah, you should do that. Somebody mentioned this to me today, and I think I'm going to force myself to go. I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to sign up. I mean, better living through chemistry. I will be medicated beyond, I will be gorked out of my mind to be there, but I might try to do it. It's enough advance that, I can potentially, I mean, I might not be able to go every single day, but could you imagine if we could go and we could maybe talk to the secretary? I mean, that's a pipe dream, but we might be able to actually get something follow law done, right? Yeah, the used car salesman. I might tell him, hey, look, my car broke down just a few minutes ago. I might turn on a camera near him and see what happens, right? But I, it's an opportunity, right? How many times are we going to get to talk? Like, I'm just meaning it from the community standpoint. How many times do non whatevers, like how many times do we get to talk to the person that could make the change? And it would be nice. And they probably, doc, they probably don't want to hear what I have to say either, but I'm going to try. I will be secretly there, but you won't know it's me. But yeah, I'll try. So that's what I wanted to talk about. It's my panic attack, but could you imagine it if frontline staff complaints got actually lobbied to the person that could make the change? Now, I'm no regional director, right? And his idea of frontline staff makes me laugh. I'm not going to beat him up too much in this one, but his idea of what a frontline staff member is like saying, like, hey, look, we want to talk to frontline staff in the airline industry. We have the owner of the airline here. It just makes me laugh to no end. What the nonsense is that? Hold on a second, guys. I got to look at this. I'm just going to go through these real quick. Happy early retirement. Let's get this retirement started right, people. Hit the like and super chat. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. The real dark one. Senor Blues, thank you for doubling up. I tried answering your question. Send me an email. D Bright, here is my support to see you ask poster boy Dougie a question. I don't mind asking somebody a question. It's keeping my personality in check because he's all over the place. He's like that, the dog that's like squirrel. Keeping him focused on the conversation of, hey, sir, what if I could tell you one thing that if you implemented, it would make the process 1,000 times better for veterans? And you could ask every single veteran this one question is, if they got a long form narrative, explaining their denial in such a way that it would help them and educate them and empower them to be able to get the evidence, if it's possible, to overturn that denial, what value would that have for you, Secretary? What value would it have to you? If we slowed down, let's say we did 300,000 less claims in a year, would that be worth it to you to put out a product that would be something that you could put on your resume that every single veteran would say, thank you, Doug Collins? What is that? What would that mean to you, Doug? What would that mean to you, Mr. Collins? And I believe that it's important. Now, holy nonsense here. Michael C. $100. Thank you for the donation, brother. I mean, I just like I appreciate it, but wow. So you're now at 100%. Congratulations on being accurately, uh, evaluated. I was 0% for 40 years plus. Conditions that I felt were due to my service connection became more serious. No clue how to start up with the VA after 4 decades. Thanks to your channel, was able to get claims processed on my own. My sincere thanks for all that you do. And hey, look, you're right in one thing. You did this all on your own. I just provided you evidence or structure on how to go about organizing the evidence you already have. I'll never take credit for, like, I got you across the finish line. This is your channel. This is everyone's channel. And that's why I make it this way, is because this is the information you should already have access to. And I do not understand why Doug, why anybody, why we don't have this information, or why the information has diverged so much, why there's so many different narratives as to how this process should be done. There's a lot of room for improvement in the VA, guys. A lot. I'm no activist. I am a social worker. So technically, that is part of that job. But I mean, like, I'll do my best, guys. I'm making no promises on anything. But if I can catch this man's ear, I will be as persuasive. I will be a silver-tongued devil for each and every one of you. You know? So before I go to this conference, what I'm planning on is I'm planning on putting up a video or something like that, asking the community what they want if I ever get to talk to this man, besides my most critical question of, could you please do long form narratives? I might have like the top 10 questions. So I might do a video on, if I can ask Doug Collins 10 things, what would you want me to ask him? And I'll let you guys basically put in comments, and then the most upvoted ones get to go to Doug Collins. And if I can ask him, I can ask him, and I might live stream it. I don't know. And what, Michael, are you doing? Oh, wait. Inner You Health Healing Ministries, thank you so much for the donation. I appreciate it. Always appreciated. Never required, guys. Never required. Salty. The salty old Marine, I know. I was looking at that tax thing. Yeah, I was thinking about that myself. So I'm pre-registering tonight. I just yeah, I'm definitely gonna do it. I've just gotta talk to the boss, my wife, and kind of get it organized. And I've gotta mentally try. Because I'll be honest with you, suffering from agoraphobia, that's gonna be wild. But it's an opportunity that I can't pass up. And Michael, thank you so much for the 20 memberships that you have handed out to people. You are gracious, sir, but please stop. Like, that's all you need to do. I thank you more than you know. You don't need to do anything more than that. CH Tim. RA approved. Hold on. RO approved. No, rheumatoid arthritis. Rheumatoid arthritis approved as MUCME. Should it have gotten liberalizing law treatment for effective date? Okay. So this question is very important. And let me get off of these guys here. Let me get back to here. So the only way that the liberalizing law would take effect, because the only way that MUCME was influenced by the PACT Act passing, is if you served in one of the new locations that were authorized under the PACT Act. So under 1117 statute. Let me try to pull that up real quick. So let me find here. So the 1117 statutes are the new locations, any new locations that were added via the PACT Act. So I want to say these ones right here. So if you served in any of these locations, these are new. If that's true, and your MUCME was based upon service in these locations, so your symptoms had to manifest after service in these locations, then you should have gotten a year earlier effective date. If that may, wait, I'm not even sharing my screen. Hold on. I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. Okay. So let's go back to here because it looked really cool what I was doing there for a second, but I just forgot to share my screen. So basically, for the Persian Gulf MUCME conditions, in order to get the earlier effective date, you would have had to have been had service in one of these locations that were added under the new revisions of the PACT Act. If this is true and you served in these locations and you were granted for the actual MUCME based upon these locations, so the symptoms manifested after that service, then yes, you should have gotten an earlier effective date. If you were granted based upon one of these locations, then no, you would not have gotten it. You would not have qualified for an earlier effective date because of the PACT Act. Does that make sense? I hope it does. And let me see here. So, oh my gosh, you guys. Grim Rickster just received 50% for mental health PTSD for mental health, comma, PTSD denied due to no documentation. If I submitted for PTSD with more supporting docs, could it affect my current rating? No. So the thing that you need to understand is diagnosis does not dictate evaluation when it comes to mental health. You could have schizophrenia. You could have adjustment disorder. It doesn't matter. The only time it would matter is if you had an eating disorder in addition, because that can get separately evaluated. But the diagnosis itself does not move the playing field as to, at least in the current iteration of mental health, it doesn't move the playing field as to how it gets rated. The symptoms that you have dictate how your mental health gets rated. So appealing PTSD, the only benefit potentially to appealing PTSD would be if it was fear-based, so based upon fear of hostile military or terrorist activity, and you were diagnosed with PTSD before 2021. That's the only value added potentially to getting that granted or getting that service-connected PTSD, because then you could get under the liberalizing law for fear-based PTSD, you could get an year earlier effective date. That is the only reason why you want to chase that, okay? That's the only reason. That's the only value added is the potential for an earlier effective date if your fact pattern matches that, okay? And I am very sorry that I will not be getting to all the questions tonight. And Grimster, stop it, guys. High blood pressure is deferred. Should I go ahead and put in for frequent urination secondary to blood pressure meds or wait for the decision? I would personally wait for the decision. I'd put it in an intent to file now, and I would just wait. And the reason why is this. Let's say you put in for the frequent urination due to BP medications, blood pressure medications. What happens if your examination for the urinary frequency for that medical opinion, what happens if that occurs before you have your blood pressure exam? If that's the case, then you could have them go, oh, well, it's not service connected because the blood pressure is not service connected. So you could have them kind of top sheet it. So how claims get worked sometimes internally can be out of order. And it's just sometimes simpler to let BP run its course, do an intent to file now, let BP run its course, see what happens. Once it gets service connected, then file the other claim so it's clean. I like clean claims. There's less shenanigans going on with clean claims. So, and we're going to, geez, guys, you got to stop with this stuff. Tinnitus was denied. Should I get medical diagnosis or a sworn personal statement suffice for my supplemental? Had neither previously. Okay. Oof. Okay. So you need a medical diagnosis in order to get granted. So once you get the medical diagnosis, I would reapply because tinnitus, getting tinnitus that was previously denied granted, the way that you typically do that is get that in front of a different examiner. The things, and now this is for everybody, okay? So we can all learn from this. Tinnitus, there's no testing for it, there's no anything for it. It's just if they believe you have the diagnosis, there's no objective, we did a tinnitus test. It doesn't exist. So typically, personal bias is how that gets rated. So the examiner's personal bias based upon their interpretation of the evidence. Getting it in front of a different examiner is how you give yourself the highest likelihood of success of getting that granted. Pocus. Oh my gosh. Okay, part 1 of 6. No, no, Pocus. No. Oh my gosh. You guys need to stop with this, okay? Okay. I guess I'm just answering these questions. I feel bad because you guys put in money for this, and I don't like doing this, but okay. 25 years since I was out, have not filed anything. Combat Craig, rest in peace, got me started. Dwayne Kimball got me educated. CivDiv gave me the idea for a single documented claim and evidence presentation to help ensure all of my info was viewed and not overlooked. Raider HQ got me where I could get better guess what was helpful to Raiders and how to help them help me. I mean, okay, thank you. Started at nothing, went from 10, 20, 60, 90 for 2 weeks, then hit 100% last week. Total process took 2 years, 5 months worth of grinding and getting diagnosed and building documentation. Okay. I'm going to skip this because this one's just here. VA conceded I was in for TERA. Should I try for OSA under that or mental health fat body? I'm going to tell you right now, mental health fat body OSA link, if the chronicity lines up, is the stronger of those two. OSA due to TERA typically falls apart based upon when you were exposed to the TERA and how long it's been since you got the sleep apnea. And most of the time it's because examiners will go, okay, you were exposed to this particular chemical and it should have circulated through your body, right? Like you should have peed it out, whatever, out of your body after a certain amount of time. If you're like 10 years out, they're like, how did you retain that particular chemical in your body long enough for it to cause a disability like sleep apnea? There are ways, like if you gained a lot of weight while you were being exposed to the chemical and the chemical got stored in your adipose, your fat tissue, and then later on in life you lost a lot of weight, which reintroduced the chemical back into your bloodstream. That's one way that can happen. But once again, that has to do with being fat. So I like the fat idea. It's been granted more than it's ever not been granted due to that intermediate step link. Part 5. I never would have thought it was possible since my service medical records had only 12 pages in it. It's not chess. It's chess, not checkers. And that's correct. Focus. And this one's for Luna. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate this. Please stop. I did it all by myself. No VSO, no claim company, etc. It can be done. Never give up. Get properly rated. And that, Focus, is the best example. I don't need to... Actually, let me go back up here. I think that it takes a village. I'm going to be honest with you. It takes a village in order to get you there. I'm trying to keep my content organized about what I know. I don't like to go further out. But this person helped me to get this person helped me to get this person helped me to get this. And you're going to see other names, other voices make it to where you can better understand things. I'll be honest with you. I might not be the best person to educate certain people with different learning styles. The salty old Marine, the salty Marine, H-Town vet, the CivDiv, all of them, right? You're going to see newer voices come into the equation that help you. Maybe you resonate with that person better. I'm all for that, guys. I don't believe that this should be Highlander. I don't believe there should only be one voice in this symphony of education for veterans. But those voices should be good actors and not bad actors. So I, I believe in this right here. I believe that every single veteran can be trained up to the point that they can file their own claim, that they have a working understanding for it. And I'm here for that. So thank you, Pocus. I appreciate it. And then that's it for that. Now let's go back to the normal conversation. I'm sorry, guys. We just got off on a wild tangent about that because there was some other things that I wanted to talk to you about today that I have concerns about. And the majority of my concerns right now have to do with this persistent, I want to say myth. Okay. And I want to talk to you tonight about that persistent myth. So I'm not going to get to too many questions tonight. I just want to help out with this one thing. I don't want to say it's misleading information, but it's a myth. It's a wives' tale. It's a thing that's not true. And it has to do with the fact that the short form narrative, if the VA doesn't put evidence on my rating decision, that's a clear and unmistakable error. That's the misinformation. Like that's the misunderstanding. I actually want to call it a misunderstanding. I don't want to call it misinformation. I want to call it a misunderstanding because this is where a lot of people, a lot of veterans get told the wrong thing. Then they do a higher level review, which opens them up to the potential to have reductions, to have reevaluations of things. Like it's very, 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 very prevalent that people think, and they keep getting told and reinforced on YouTube that by not putting all the evidence in there, that's a clear and unmistakable error. Well, the problem with that is that it says right here that short form narratives, which are 99% of all narratives that you're given as a veteran when you file a claim, well, they do not have to contain the entire explanation of the analysis. So what does that mean? That means that they don't have to include your medical opinion. They don't have to copy and paste it in there. Nice raters will do that, but they don't have to. Or specifically cite each piece of evidence in the rating narrative. They don't have to do that. It's not a clear and unmistakable error for them because the manual says that they don't have to do it. However, each element, which means the favorable findings of the decision, should be adequately explained. So that is where you'll see a lot of rating corrections that go back and reaffirm the favorable findings to you. Like sometimes you'll get your rating decision and then you'll get a denial and then you'll get another rating decision like a month later that says, hey, look, we're not changing anything, but I need to tell you your favorable findings. We missed a favorable finding. We have to correct that based upon this manual reference. Like they have to be, that is a critical error. Well, a non-critical error, actually, being truthful. Non-critical error for, not explaining the favorable findings, but it's not, it's sufficient enough to have to redo the rating decision to tell you your favorable findings. But why does that matter? Well, it matters because people misunderstand that it's a clear and unmistakable error to not include the evidence, all the evidence in the rating decision. So, and the reason why is because not including the evidence in the rating decision doesn't make it to where the outcome would be different, right? The error must be the sort that, had it not been made, would have manifestly changed the outcome at the time it was made. So, because the examiner makes the determination as to whether or not something is or is not service connected, not putting the evidence on the rating decision doesn't change that outcome. However, what does change that outcome is if the examiner was never given that evidence, then yes, it could have changed the outcome. of the, it could have potentially changed the outcome because they have to include that evidence in, to the examiner. If the examiner made a premature decision where they didn't have, like, let's say they didn't have your private records that had a diagnosis, and you were given no diagnosis on the DBQ and you were rated with no diagnosis on the DBQ, and let's say the condition was presumptive, well, then that would change the outcome because you have in your private treatment records a clear diagnosis of the condition. So it has to be an unmistakable error. Okay. And it also has to be an error. Like, it has to be an error. So I kind of just wanted to bring that up tonight as my little TED Talky thing. I know I've missed so many of your questions, but I want to just say this because this is a resistant set of misunderstandings about how the process works. Okay. The people that are pushing this do not understand that the error, like whatever was wrong with it, would have had to have changed the outcome. So if you were denied, then not including the evidence would have unmistakably changed it to a grant. That's why you'll see a lot of the time they go to duty to assist errors because they're not clear and unmistakable, and they wouldn't have changed the outcome. So the DTA, the duty to assist errors, are light CUNEs. They're CUNEs where the outcome isn't determined. So we're going to send it back to have a tiebreaker done, or we're going to send it back to actually change to get that medical examiner to see if this new evidence would have potentially altered the outcome. So I just need you guys to understand that, because I know we're here to answer questions, but we're also here to educate. And this one, I mean, I watched somebody's video. I will not say it, but I was like, man, and it's not just them, right? This is prevalent. Like, I think up until I've had this conversation with a lot of content creators about this, because they, for whatever reason, it's exhausting to rate something where the person's like, hey, look, you didn't put, like, they'll do a supplemental claim or they'll do a higher level review, and there'll be a duty to assist error in the higher level review. But the premise of the higher level review is that, hey, look, you didn't cite my evidence in my rating decision, so you're wrong. And the decision review officer, actually does a difference of like, they do a duty to assist error because we didn't get a TERA memo or a TERA medical opinion for it. The problem is that when the DRO does that, they say, hey, look, we didn't do this thing over here that has nothing to do with what you brought to us, right? It has nothing to do with the evidence on the rating decision. We didn't actually take a step that we should have. It reinforces this misunderstanding that the evidence not being listed on the narrative, the rating decision, is the reason why something got done. It will never be the reason why something got done. Now, if your examination request doesn't include the evidence that should have been in there, right? That's how you prove that something wasn't done. That's how you prove that the VA did not give the information to the examiner, because they can't look at stuff unless we give them permission to see it. The exception to that is VHA CMP examiners can look at your complete record of VA care without having to get permission for it. Okay, one more, and then we'll get to answering questions. I appreciate you, but I really need your assistance. We spoke in October and you asked that I send you an email. I did. Please. Oh, yeah. If you could resend me an email, James, today. I'm re-looking at my emails for everything that happens tonight. I'm just going to look at them, and then I'm just not going to look anymore. I just can't, guys. I would be, it would be like IBS of the email. I wouldn't ever leave the computer, and I've got to leave my computer or else I will go insane. And this is true. Like, I have sent like 500 to 1,000 word character type responses, and they're very detailed. Like they have to be detailed because this process is detailed, and a lot of the times the answers are situational. But it just it drives me, it tires me, guys. This issue about answering questions is one of the reasons I like the CivDiv does his members get access to, yeah, Roger, Roger. And that's the thing where I don't know if I could trust. I don't know. I like my answers. I don't know. Trust but verify, I guess. I don't know. Regarding our VSR not attaching your independent medical opinion DBQ to the exam request, how do you fix that? I Matthew, I put out a video on this, or I think I mentioned it in a live stream or something, where if you if you reschedule your exam, it'll go back. Like if you end up rescheduling your exam, let me ask this in a question way. Have you ever had it to where you had a CMP examination that you couldn't attend and you had to reschedule? And they said, "Hey, look, if you reschedule one more time, we're going to send you back to the VA and have them, figure out what's going on, and then they can reorder the exam if they need to." Well, imagine if you rescheduled your exam enough to where you went back to the VA. But before you went back to the VA, you asked in a 4138 to have the VSR please include your independent medical opinion and your private DBQ with your evidence. Now, another thing that you can do is you can upload sometimes. I'm not an expert on this, so I'm kind of outside of my comfort zone. Sometimes the private vendors will have a portal to upload any evidence that you want to have them upload. Well, upload it there in the portal. That's how I would do it. No, I have not, Ryan, and I'm going to tell you why. AI is not good at answering questions related to, like, there's a reason why AI cannot currently answer questions effectively. And it has to do with the very, very subjective, is the 38 CFR correct in this situation, or is the M21 correct in this situation? Or there's a gray area. There's so much gray area in the M21 or whenever it conflicts with itself that I can't trust AI to give an answer that I would be sufficient with it giving. Now, I'm not saying that AI companies out there are bad or anything like that. I'm not saying that. Like, AI is great at what it's great at doing. So it's great at organizing your evidence. It's great at actually uh, parsing through a lot of information and kind of picking things out. But it is not good at judging things because it doesn't have access to all the information. It doesn't have access to the behind the scenes SOPs. It doesn't have access to, the MOUs, the memorandums of understanding or anything like that. And I do get a lot of repeat questions. CMP, independent medical opinion, were from a VBA ordered exam, and now they want to throw them away and say they were in error. Ugh, North Idaho guy. I don't know what the hell's going on with you, but Idaho seems to be on a weird trip. Great follow up OSA video, by the way. Thank you, GC Jarhead. Questions about the character of discharge process. I was awarded Chapter 17 for several mental health claims as well as my hip, pinning, and fracture. My character of discharge evidence did not include any of the DBQs from CMPs. So your character of discharge right now. So you're Chapter 17 eligible. You'll need to get a character of discharge upgrade to something honorable, under honorable, or something like that in order for you to benefit from the other half of the benefits. So the compensation portion, like the monetary compensation. you'll have to get an upgrade in your in that, because what happens is it doesn't matter what's on your DBQ at all when you're chapter 17. It's either a yes or no. Are you service connected? Yes. Did the examiner give you a positive medical opinion? If they did, then you get health care for that condition. That's it. Like, that's as far as it goes. So Tiny Tank, you want to probably, get with somebody about upgrading that. Now, if you had a character of discharge that was historical before 2024, let's say 2023, they've made a change to the way that they review the character of discharge now, to where when somebody files a new claim, it if you haven't done one since, I'm going to guess, 2023, they'll do a new character of discharge review and see if they can upgrade you on their own. So it might be a good idea, if you're somebody who has a negative character of discharge that makes you either dishonorable, or in your case, chapter 17 eligible, to see, maybe claim something that you don't care about, like diabetes or something. Like, let's say you don't have it, but you want to just initiate a new character of discharge review. If that's the case, then if the authorizer who will review your, or I should say the senior VSR, the GS11 VSR that reviews your character of discharge review, if they end up upgrading you, then what happens is they'll switch all of your chapter 17 over to compensable. Now, you might have to go to exams for them, because they don't have any new current evidence for your chapter 17 stuff. So you'll probably have to go to exams for everything, but it would behoove you to do that. So I don't know. I don't know if that helps. D Brighton, I don't need that. I just need my mental health. Like, there's a reason why I don't show my face, and there's a reason why I don't leave my house, and there's a reason why I don't do the things that I do, man. My mental health sometimes just rakes me over the coals. I'm not embellishing. If Lieutenant Dan wants to rock in here and say that I'm faking it, then I'm the best faker in the world, because my family would say that they would love it if I was faking, so that way I could actually go do stuff with them. Go to my kids' stuff and whatnot, but I can't. So I might have a mask on, CH Tim. I might have a mask on. I'll probably show my face, but you probably won't know it's me. I might put out a new sweatshirt or something that has like a it'll be in September, so that'll probably be warm. So I might have a hat or something like that I do with the Raider HQ logo on it, that I'm the only one that has that merchandise. So that'll probably be how you identify me. And hello, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. If not, Luna gets angry, and you wouldn't like her when she's angry. So hit the like and subscribe button. I already answered this one, I think. I answered it enough to tell you to send me an email. Also, would the VBA be better off if they combined VSR and Raider? Okay, now this is an interesting question. Now, and require QRT to have done both jobs. There is and Mr. Kimball can actually attest to this, is that there was a time period whenever they did everything start to finish. Like, they worked a whole claim from start to finish. And oh God, if he's there. Hold on, I just had a squirrel moment. If Lieutenant Dan goes to that thing. All right, I might have a Raider goes to jail fund. I don't know. Like, maybe, I don't know. Like, nope. Anyway, I'm going to stay on this question here, but I don't think it would be good. I don't know. I just know what I know, and I know that we've had the assembly line VSR Raider prom and auth type situation. I can tell you that there's drawbacks to both ways of doing it. There just are, because at least with the VSR situation, you can get a different person that might have a different bias towards you or for you or against you. more eyes means more screw ups, but it also means more times to save you from somebody screwing up. Sweep the leg. Oh yeah, brother. We're gonna come down there and a rumble from the jungle. I don't know. I don't even know what I would do. I'd probably talk to him. I'd just probably tell him he's wrong. He's a fucking follow law idiot. But good evening. Sorry, did you see my question? Mr. Ray and MCM, I don't know if you can help Mr. Ray on this, but please, if you can, I don't know if you guys have already resolved it. I'm probably about an hour behind on the questions, but if you could make sure that Mr. Ray's question gets resolved, I would appreciate it. No, sir. I just had my VA appointment. My VA doctor signed a DBQ and sinuses and rhinitis. Is that considered a diagnosis? Yeah, if they check the box. And I can't answer what theory you would use, because I can tell you right now that sinusitis and rhinitis they can both qualify for the direct theory, the secondary theory, the toxic exposure risk activity theory, or if you had service in Southwest Asia, during a qualifying period of time, they're presumptive for 38 CFR 3.320. Now, you could also have it under aggravation if they existed before service, at which point in time that's the only way that you could get it service connected under 38 CFR 3.306. Do you see where there's a problem here? It depends on the facts of your specific facts. That's how claims companies, VSOs, that's why they get business, is because there's so many different variables that it's specific to you and your situation. Is a bail bond a legitimate expense? Can I go to jail? I'm going to go to jail. I'm going to go to jail, guys. Actually, no. And I'll be honest with you, even if I saw Lieutenant Dan there, the ability to potentially talk to the VA secretary is more of a prize than booping a nose or something like that, which I never do. I mean, I'm just saying. And the salty old Marine, wonderful to have you here. I wouldn't boop the nose or sweep the leg. The 100-mile rule shouldn't be in there with the days of Zoom. No, and I agree with you, little Tucker. I agree with you. But the problem is, how did you connect to that specific human being that's 100 miles away? Why did you pick that human being? That's where the authenticity and credibility comes into play. That's where the people that are hammers that are looking for nails, right? They're the fraud advocates. They're looking for all the fraudsters. That's what their first thought process is why did you choose that human being? Is that the person that you went with because they're going to give you the outcome that you'll pay them for? That's how they think, unfortunately. And man, I should make videos about my negative transactions with people now that I can. Holy mother. I can't with some people. Like, some people are like, that's not PTSD. And I'm like, look, where's your medical license? Where's your mental health license? Because out of the two of us, I can actually diagnose PTSD. Persuasively argue with me why you don't think it's PTSD. Well, they didn't go into combat. I'm like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever said or ever heard. The manual itself gives you many different categories of PTSD. Why are you thinking that you know something here? Just do your job. If you do your job, then you're doing the veteran a solid. And your job is to literally get an exam if one is needed. Or what did the outcome of the examiner say? Like, just process the work. Don't feed into it. You don't need to have an opinion here. You don't need to be Captain Karen and have an opinion on everything. And that's one of the things that I think, if Raiders, like, that's a policy that should be there sitting right next to 38 CFR 4.23, the attitude of the Raider, which, mind you, the VSR is not held to. But the attitude of the Raider should also be, you shouldn't have any feelings about anything. You should just do the work. Don't think about anything. Just do the work. Make sure that everything's there. It's too easy. Now, guys, I'm sorry. I'm going to probably cut her short here in a little bit because I can smell food being cooked, and it is a thing. I'm trying to look through questions here. So, why doesn't the VA rater that is working on your claim have the permission to work with the veteran either by phone or in person so that whatever is needed for the evidence that the veteran can gather it? Because it's not the rater. If there's evidence gathering that needs to happen, that's the development phase. So that's the VSR. The VSRs work in the development phase. Now, part of the reason why they don't reach out to the veteran, I don't understand why. I loved whenever I was a VSR, I loved reaching out to veterans. Got yelled at a few times, but not because of anything I did, but just because, they're like, what in the hell? Like they're just losing their minds. But I think that every single VSR should reach out to the veteran. There's this one particular thing in here for like determining the issue. So it's a part of the manual called determining the issue. And this is why a lot of raters get really, really mad at a lot of VSRs, is because like they have the requirement, like if a condition, and I've brought this up beforehand because people had asked me questions about this. Why are sleep disturbances rated wrong? Well, that's because the VSR didn't clarify the issues. Whenever a disability claim is not clearly identified, ensure that the claimed clarification process outlined in this section of the manual has been followed. They don't do it, right? They just order the DBQ that they think they should order. So rather than for sleep disturbances, if the veteran has a mental health condition, they top sheet and think it's insomnia. And then they go and they actually get you a mental health increase that you didn't ask for. But technically, the VSR is supposed to do that. Now, once the VSR does that, they start creating evidence that doesn't need to be there. And that's very frustrating for some raters like myself, where I go, why are we even paying you? I could have done, if you just would have given me the claim from the onset, I would have done a better job. But unfortunately, that can't even be generalized to all raters because not all raters are good at their job. It's horrible. And Flexman, that's cool. Like, I hope that more VSRs reach out because they should. But they don't, right? And that's where, and nobody's checking. Because if you remember, I've told you guys that they only do 3 quality pulls a month. So if a VSR touches 100 claims, which is very doable for a VSR, then only 3% of the work they have done is reviewed. And even if they did 50% of their work wrong, 50 claims are wrong, only 3% are pulled. So there's a high chance that they've got perfect quality. They look like the most stellar employee on the planet, even though they have got a 50% or less efficient track record in reality, right? So it's horrible. Can you talk about filing OSA or mental health before that? I put out a video. I literally did. I put out a video on the tips for claiming OSA. I mean, I got into the nitty gritty on this. Like, what was that, yesterday? Like, hold on. Sleep. It was yesterday, January 30th. I put out a video on that. That's there. Here, I'll even. So what you're telling me is you didn't watch my video. You didn't watch my video. I'm sad. That makes me sad. So there's my video on it. Put him in timeout. Beat him up. Yeah. No, but the mental health one, I'm probably not going to put out anything before the changes because I like the changes for the most part. I like the mental health changes, so for me, they're not a bad thing. I am not saying Deep Brighton that I have a video for that. There's another human being that says that. But like, well, I mean, hold on. Hold on. Nope, we're gonna mute it because we don't need the CPAP shop. So in this video, and we'll just kind of go here. So this video that I put in the chat, it goes through how I would probably claim it. I explain what kind of needs to happen, the different ways that it can be claimed. So sleep apnea is kind of limited to direct, secondary, and TERA theory for service connection. I kind of talk about how each one should be claimed. I talk about the supporting evidence that you need to have. Like, I talk about, like, if you are a kind of person who has had it previously denied, what you would need to kind of talk about on the supplemental claim, the steps that you need to take in order to have the supplemental claim be kind of to have the historical criteria enacted. So, and then I talk about supporting documents, how to kind of write them if you're doing like the intermediate step for weight gain. This is not a template, guys. It's just an outline for kind of, hopefully you can see the way that I wrote it and what information I'm trying to convey to the examiner and what I'm trying to convey to the rater, because those are two different people. There's two different people that have to be kind of educated on this. And then, I go into different details here, and there's, like how to, if you're doing a private DBQ, and how to write a 4138. So that way you ask them nicely to include the private DBQ and medical opinion in your exam request. If one has to be done, right? If one has to be done, then please do this. So I hope that this video, I guess I raise awareness on it now. If you guys want to make sure that you're checking the boxes to get the historical criteria for sleep apnea, you might want to watch this video. So I put it in the chat there. If it's something that you're interested in, you're more than welcome to watch it. I hope that helps. Now, there's no guarantees, but mind you, there's no guarantees at all that anything that I tell you will actually go your way, because what decides the outcome? The examiner, based upon the evidence that you submit. Okay. If you submit evidence that's confusing, convoluted, the examiner might not get there. Right. So and we had talked about this earlier, where like the CivDiv does something, Mr. Kimball does something, the Salty Marine, the Salty Old Marine, all of them do something. Right. But my stuff is about organizing your evidence in such a way that you humanize yourself, you make it concise, it's not confusing, it's easy access, easy understood, and easily applied. Now, how dare you? How dare you, fatty liver? All right, so I'm going to answer a couple of these. Currently in IDES, so that's pre-discharge claim right there. So that's kind of like a BDD claim. I have claimed chronic ileitis instead of IBS as it was found on my colonoscopy. Is it named? It isn't named Crohn's, but it will it still be rated like Crohn's? It'll be rated however the exam, like whichever section of the digestive DBQ that the examiner fills out will determine how the rater will rate it. So that's typically whenever like if it's not something that's explicitly has its own diagnostic code, then it will get rated analogously, which means that we'll kind of try to link it up to what most closely fits symptom-wise. Oftentimes that's IBS, but it can be Crohn's. So it'll depend on what section of the manual they fill out, or what section of the DBQ they fill out. Sorry, guys. It's been a long day. And then my going to jail fund is actually, my going to jail fund will start probably in July for that. D. Brighton, thank you for the 2-month membership. I was thinking this month they do VSSR duty next rater duty and such, not complete claim. So the problem is there's a problem with this. The more benefits veterans get, the more they expand upon veterans benefits, like the PACT Act, the more that raters and VSRs have to understand and have to process and have to juggle at any given time. There's only so much mental capacity that somebody can have in order to juggle that much information. And I think in the future, they're going to have to make some changes because there is no way on earth and under heaven that most human beings can track all these things. Like literally, I am not good at anything else because almost every single ounce of my mental capacity has been to learn this process. And most people aren't good at being a rater. A lot of the times you can't train somebody to be good at a rater. You can train them to be good at a certain task. And in my opinion, that's why they started dividing things up into smaller, more manageable sets and series of information, like development. All you do is gather evidence and determine whether or not an exam is warranted. Good. Rater. All you do is rate. That's where the siloing comes from. Is that way they can't actually, like, they can't process that level of variety because it's challenging, guys, to know all this stuff. It really is. And you have to be on your game daily. Like I spend about 2 hours a day researching changes, looking things up, reviewing things. Answering questions all the time helps me to be relevant. If I wasn't answering questions all the time, if you don't use it, you lose it. So would this be a CUNE VSR deferral pending for establishment of EP 930? Yes, that's a clear and unmistakable error because it's an EP 930. Yes. Anytime you see an EP 930, somebody screwed up and they're correcting it. So an EP 930 is an EP end product claim where they have to correct something on the rating narrative or rating decision, and it's outside of the normal claim line. That's what an EP 930 is. So yes. 2 of 2. Go for is an error. Nothing, no in service, no DX. Okay, so these are codes. Okay, these 2 codes right here. It's very weird that you either know these codes or that, because these are codes that we have a light bulb in VBMS. So we have this like blow in text section, and NIS is no in service text will blow in and no DX will blow in. So this is basically like you had no, like you didn't have service in a Gulf War qualifying location, nor did you have a diagnosis of the condition. Yeah. So there's a confliction there. It's some kind of error. QRT's looked at it. Yeah, it would probably be in your file, but somebody screwed up and they wrote that there because those are like, you would hit, gosh, what is it? It's Alt Shift A. You'd hit NIS Alt Shift A and it blows in that text. Or you'd hit you'd type in no DX and then hit like Alt Shift A and then it blows in that text. So it's kind of that's a behind the scenes thing. I'm sorry that they put that in there. Sometimes like it doesn't help you. Once again, something to Doug Collins. Can we please get more accurate information? No acronyms in there. If you're going to write it out, type it out, like do things. Do them right. Do them, if you can't, like every single claim should just go in front of Doug Collins. And if he can't understand it, which I don't think he could, then it's not sufficient. It should be, every single rating decision should be tailored for the lowest common denominator. If you don't know what it means, who in the room doesn't know what it means? If anybody in the room doesn't know what it means, then we need to do better at explaining things. I know that the changes are going to happen before October 1st of 2026 per the VA's own statements to Congress. That's all I know. Now, the changes themselves, the changes to tinnitus, sleep apnea, and mental health, in my personal opinion, I do not know when they will hit, but I do know that they will not hit at the same time, because that is too much wild nonsense to push onto staff members, be it CMP examiners or raters, VSRs, authorizers, and the like, because that would be too many moving parts at once. What I likely think will happen is the changes to tinnitus and sleep apnea will come much sooner than the changes to mental health. I think that the changes to mental health will take much longer because they have to do a bottom up revision of everything, how it's rated, training. Because you have to understand, mental health providers, this is their one sole job, is to fill out two different, well, technically three different DBQs, technically four. They have to fill out either the general mental health one, the PTSD initial, the PTSD revision, or the eating disorder one. That's it. They've got like 4 DBQs that they fill out. Other examiners fill out just a lot of DBQs depending on what's put in front of them. So they have to get it from the top up. It's a whole different system. There's not going to be anything the same when it comes to how mental health is rated. Not one single thing will be the same as the current system. So I think that one will be pushed all the way back to like September, to be honest with you. But that's just my 2 cents. Now, can you bank on that? No. The better, I've put out videos on this, guys. Please watch them. Please watch the requirements that are needed for them to meet the changes, especially for tinnitus and sleep apnea. You have to have a diagnosis and a claim filed before the changes go into effect. If you're missing one of those things and you file a claim, like if you're missing a current diagnosis, your odds of success to retain the historical criteria go way down. Because yes, you can, like get an exam potentially and get them to diagnose you in that exam, but what happens if they don't? You're not on, you're no longer eligible for the historical criteria. So please watch my video on it. So if you're doing a lay statement, should you talk high level in the statement, meaning speak to the doctor and name your actual diagnosis, or talk to the human? I say do both. So I say, like, if you're going to iterate anything about your claimed condition, say the diagnosis, talk about the symptoms. So I have IBS, which, manifests as chronic diarrhea, chronic, constipation. And these are, and I get pain and I get whatever, and I get whatever, and I get whatever. It's your document. You can explain it how you want, but you should definitely hit all the bases. But do so. We do not need a 17-page document. Nobody's reading that. Look, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. Nobody's reading that. They're skimming it. They're skimming it hard to see if you talk about different theories for service connection. That's what the rater's looking for. That's what the VSR is looking for. Because when they do the exam request, they want to know, okay, what theories technically is the veteran claiming, so I can make sure I hit them all so I do not get an error. That's it. Like that's it. Boom, nailed it. Error on a BDD CMP DBQ found via FOIA request. Anything I can do to address it now? Yeah, you can do a higher level review. Like, what's the error? Boom, nailed it. Because some errors, like I went over the clear and unmistakable error earlier, where sometimes things aren't right, but they're not an error. It could be a duty to assist error. But yeah, you still can do a higher level review. It depends on what it is. Tell me what it is. What's wrong with it? And then we got Zulrich. I just submitted a detailed DBQ and medical opinion in my favor, at least as likely as not, from a CMP from last year to support my claim. Saw another CMP was ordered. Why? It could be for a DBQ. So there's a half-life to DBQs because a lot can happen in a year, right? So I don't fault them for that. If you got a medical opinion, that would be concerning. But if you got a normal DBQ, that's fine, because the average 6 months is when a DBQ starts to get stale for me. I would like to see something newer than 6 months old because, if you had like heart conditions, your heart conditions could drastically go down. Your symptoms could become much, much worse in a year's time. So that's normal. I'm going to say that would be normal. Now, if they got a medical opinion, that would be abnormal. I might cry foul on that. But if they got a DBQ, we have to, because technically you might not be accurately assessed because most treatment doesn't line up with the symptoms and the way things are presented in the claims process. So just using your treatment record, was it done in September? That'll come down to the rater then. That'll come down to the rater as to whether or not they want it. If they want it, that's within their purview to do it. If it was just a VSR that got it with no, I guess your next question should be, okay, what do I do? Go to a VSO with VBMS access and see if there's any notes in there of a rater giving permission or doing directed development to say, hey, look, you should get I want a new examination for this. Okay. If that's the case, then that's fine. That's within their wheelhouse and power to do so. If it's just the VSR, I might remind them that it's there, but I also might look in the exam request to see if that DBQ and medical opinion were included in the exam request. If they were, then that's fine, right? Because, and I can't speak for examiners. I wish Jackie was here. But a lot of examiners will, if one examiner kind of says yes, and it's a VA examiner, they'll go along with it a lot of the time, as long as it's reasonable. If it's kind of out there, then it can be challenging. All right, gang. Okay, Jackie. Jackie Chan. Sorry. Jackie. So Jackie says a couple things here. Is there anything that a vet can do to fix a claim submitted by a VSO improperly? Yes, they can withdraw the claim. So they can withdraw the claim if they feel like it's completely jacked up. If they check with the VSO and let's say the exam request is also off, withdrawing the claim is probably the best thing to do. If the exam's been already scheduled, withdrawing the claim is the best thing to do. If the exam has not been scheduled yet, they could do a 4138, VA Form 21-4138, requesting to have the secondary medical opinion be considered. The reason why I like the withdraw the claim idea better is because it resets everything. If you had an intent to file and this claim used it, by withdrawing it, it makes it to where the next claim that's submitted uses that intent to file. So you don't lose anything unless your intent to file is expired. But I really hate it whenever you do the 4138 and it gets missed, because you can get that additional, hey, look, also claim this secondary to this. It can get missed by the VSR and by the rater. And that's a waste of time. That is a waste of time. So yeah, show Jackie some love. Jackie is a CMP examiner. And she's one of them there TikTokers. Now we gonna be nice to TikTokers. She's one of them TikTokers. Hopefully she comes over here to YouTube. We would love to have her over here on YouTube. But she's a nurse practitioner. God bless her. And she's doing exams. So one day, hopefully, I think, I don't want to let any cats out of bags, but there's been a conversation about Jackie and myself and the Civ Div potentially doing a collaboration in which we just kind of talk about different things and we bounce things off each other. And I'm really excited about that because I have had questions. There are questions in my brain, such as, if an insufficient exam rework request is submitted, how many times can, in her experience, a CMP examiner get insufficient exam requests for like missing, rationales and key items of the rating decision, or sorry, of the medical opinion or DBQ if something's completely wrong? How many times can they get that before they either get retraining or they get fired? I'm very interested in that. But yeah, it would be great to have that. Now, Jackie does a follow-up question here. Veteran requested his AFib be submitted as secondary to hypertension, but the VSO did not submit it that way, and the vet did not realize until a few weeks after submission. I would withdraw the claim. There's no limit to it? No. No, Jackie, don't do this to me. Don't do this to me. There has to be some admonishment. There has to be. There has to be. You cannot be a soup sandwich. Like, tell me there's retraining. Tell me there's retraining. Please lie to me. Lie to me, Jackie. Save my feelings on this one. Tell me that there's at least retraining. Because do you know how many times I've had to send something back for insufficiency because they'll say something wonky like it's due to the veteran's shoes or something like his boots in service. And I'm like, okay, that's nothing that we can use. Show me in his medical records where element 2 is satisfied, where his boots, like he had treatments for the size of his boots or like he had medical treatment of some kind. Jackie, at least tell me an untruth. Tell me an untruth. Give me a white lie at least. That makes me even worse because why even have insufficiency reviews? Because, okay, so what I'm talking about with Jackie right now is anytime that we find that the exam, basically the DBQ or medical opinion has an insufficiency with it, and we have to defer it back to have them correct that insufficiency, there's two different categories in which we can actually do that deferral, that rework request. We can say that, hey, look, this is can I get clarification on this? When you said hypertension, did you mean hypertension or did you mean hypertensive vascular disease? Like if I'm unsure about the diagnosis, that would be a clarification. Then there's just all out insufficiencies. And I have had examiners call me up and be like, can you change this to clarification? And it seemed like it mattered. So I thought, in my brilliant mind, that was something that actually mattered. But I will take your word for it and default to your expertise. The only thing that will draw attention to the examiners in regards to late reports. Wow. What about MDEO? Like, what if I climb up MDEO's fourth point of contact and I'm like, look, you need to fix this examiner. They will not answer my question, because that's another thing that deferring back. I have had we're talking like 6th deferral back to the examiner. And I'm just like, look, man, I just need you to answer this question. And they'll be like, I answered it. I'm like, actually, you didn't. And then they're like, yes, I did. And I'm like, look, if you don't answer it, I'm going to get a different exam through a different examiner. I'm just going to redo the whole thing because you're not actually answering my question, and I can't adjudicate this claim until such time that you actually satisfy me with an answer on this. Legally, I need you to medically satisfy my legal requirement. And it's so frustrating because I've actually had to just abandon a complete examination because the examiner will not satisfy the legal criteria. And I don't want to, there comes a point when you're like, the veteran will suffer from this. So you just abandon it and you get a new examination because you're afraid that the examiner will start, doing things that actually have a negative connotation on the outcome of the claim. It's very, very sad. They have no direct communication with us. That is the problem. We cannot talk to you. You do not really talk to us. There are 30 people in between. And that's correct. Now, I will call somebody. because a lot of the times somebody will write in there, it's in the response, like, if you have any questions, please contact me here. I will reach out. But you're right, on the VBA side of it, the exam liaisons. So we have these subject matter experts that reach out to the vendors, the contract vendors, or the VHA CMP examiners. And if something needs to be clarified, then um, you have to contact that exam liaison, and that exam liaison will reach out on your behalf, which, like Jackie's saying here, it's a game of telephone. Well, the problem with that on the VBA side is that we do not have rater CMP exam liaisons. We don't have actually exam liaisons that are raters. So somebody that knows why they might have an issue with the claim, why it needs to be corrected. So what we're doing is we're telling the VSR, who all the VSRs are exam liaisons. So we're telling a VSR who has no clue what we're talking about, right? They haven't had any of the training. We're saying, hey, look, I need you to ask them this thing over here. And then you get the game of telephone where they talk to somebody that is not like your counterpart, not the actual provider, but somebody else that's a counterpart to the process. And then shenanigans occur. Like, I mean, like, it derails quickly. So hold on here. Yeah, and that's a lot of the time why stuff gets ordered and stuff gets weird. But I have historically, because I was an exam liaison whenever I was a VSR. So for me, reaching out to them and just going, hey, look, can you have them fix this? And they're like, well, the examiner said they're not going to fix this. I'm like, can you transfer me directly to that examiner because I am the rater and this will continue. And I will do a complaint to MDEO. And I know that the examiner will not get in trouble for it, but you guys will. Like your boss, the administrative people will have. I'm going to send an email to MDEO and tell you guys, hey, look, fix this or else. Like, it's your job. You have one job. And I try not to be mean, Jackie. I try not to be. Really? Well, and that's why, that's a lot of the time, the reason why they like to keep us separate is so that way there can be no collusion, right? I cannot influence your outcome. There is a legitimate reason why they have that there. But they throw the baby out with the bathwater a lot of the time, because in those situations, like whenever it would be advantageous to talk to somebody, they're like, no, you shouldn't. But in the other situations, it can oftentimes make things worse because they have that separation, that we don't want you to influence each other separation to where you guys decide together, why something is something. I get on the naughty list often because I am the examiner that pushes back on things. And that's good. It's good to push back on things. It's good to ask why. Like, I like examiners that push back on things. There is one thing, Jackie, that I wish, like, this is my Doug Collins thing, but for Jackie. Because I remember you talking, I was watching you and CivDiv talk. I was hoping that you would talk. You have an opportunity to educate veterans in a way that I cannot. And that has to do with the TERA or the EMOHs, the toxic exposure risk activities, or the environmental occupational hazard exposures. If you could, on your TikToks, and I suggest everybody go to Jackie's TikTok and watch for this, explain what is persuasive to making a decision overall, because you discussed with Clay how you guys have message boards and stuff like that. So there is a general, you're not islands of information. But I think that the veteran community could benefit drastically from your specific perspective on how TERA is determined. Like how it's weighed, how it's reviewed, how it's, all those fun things, right? About what would be the most persuasive evidence to an examiner for a TERA review. You know, like if you're doing jet fuel and hypertension, how do you get across the finish line on that? What evidence weighs more for you? What resources weighs more heavily for you? Is it the Mayo Clinic or is it somewhere else? I really think that that would be a very, very interesting conversation, Jackie, because that would help. Uh, okay, okay, hold on. I will upload a short tomorrow on TERA specifically here tomorrow. Awesome. See, we're bettering the veteran community. Jackie, could you do me a favor here and mods, everybody involved, mods, do not delete this. Jackie, could you put your uh, TikTok information in the chat, please? Could you put your channel information in the chat so that way everybody can go over to your channel and look for that? Because I'm going to look for that because I have my speculations on it, right? Like, but I can't, it would be disingenuous of me to say that, yeah, this is the secret sauce to get it. I deal in likelihoods. Like, it would be potentially more persuasive to have this evidence, and this evidence, because I know that I need that evidence to grant, but I don't have that insider information into how you guys come to that conclusion. I speculate, but I can't do more than that. So that would be really, really cool if you could do that. Now, obviously, guys, this is going to be one instance of it and it can't be generalized. Okay. So, like, it's not like if Jackie tells you this is how she does it, then that's a great idea, right? But you can't hold her to it if it doesn't work, right? Because we can't promise anything. There's no guarantees in any outcome. But hopefully, I'm hoping Jackie puts out a very persuasive set of, you know, just from her experience and having talked to other examiners and what they like to see. You know, and look, Jackie, we're gonna hopefully support your channel here. I'm for it because I'm pro veteran. I'm pro you know, information. I'm pro education. So, and I have no, I'm very humble in the fact that I'm not very good at YouTube. So I'm not very good at making myself better at the detriment to others. So I'll make you better, you know, and I'll push more people your way, obviously, so we can get more information out there because education is the goal here, at least for me. So it is the same username. So guys, if you're on here, this is very important, molto importante, that doesn't help. Very important that we use the same username. Go over to Jackie's thing. Jackie's going to put something out tomorrow for the TERA stuff, as she said there. Then stop talking shit. Most veterans are thankful of the VA and the people that take care of us. So much hate. Is that for me? Is that for me, Flexman? Io studiare italiano nella università. Oh, wait, I won't say where I went to, but. So my BA experiences are also positive. CMP examiners and their faculties are done well. Stop generalizing the VBA process is negative. Okay, so that's okay. I was just wondering. You guys got me off topic there. So, guys, just you know, and thanks, guys. You know, support good actors out here because we can tell that Jackie's trying to do the best that Jackie can, and you know, that's all anybody can ask of us is, you know, if we have more good actors out there coming together, we can grow as a community. We can get accurately assessed and accurately rated. That it shouldn't be a mystery. The process should not be a mystery. There shouldn't be any kind of secret special formula, some behind the scenes secret document nonsense that there is. And we need to work together to diminish that. So yeah, TERA claims often involve long latency periods, and that alone does not weaken the claim. Many toxic environmental and occupational exposures are well established in medical literature to cause. And I agree with that, Jackie. There's a lot of I've spoken to. It's fine. I call you Jackie, right? Like you're okay with that. You're okay with that, right? I just want to make sure because I think I'm overstepping a boundary here. But the TERA stuff, I do know that a lot of examiners have a problem sometimes with that latency period. I don't know why they do, but it's so hit or miss that that's the problem for me. I can't predict it. It's hard to evaluate where, a lot of the times for like sleep apnea and weight gain, you can kind of predict how the evidence will come out a lot of the time. Sometimes it's an upset, and sometimes, you're kind of like, wow, okay, they went a different way with it. And that's the exception, not the rule. But with Tara, I oftentimes find that it is literally a 50-50 shot. I could have 20 veterans that claim Tara. 10 of them are granted, 10 of them are denied. And it's all over the place. Like, it is the Wild West currently of how that gets determined. But maybe if you could talk about how to make those latency periods more persuasive pathologies where you might go to research something. So that way, the more savvy veterans can go and try to do that too. Not to try to win over the examiner, but to maybe help fill in some of the gaps that maybe a less experienced examiner doesn't understand. So that way you can kind of lead the horse to water. And if they choose to drink, they drink. Um, I'm going to answer this one. The veteran is diagnosed with vertigo, low frequency hearing loss, and tinnitus. The VA doctor has no explanation of what's causing it. Is it recommended for the veteran to ask the CMP about the cause? No. That's what the medical opinion is. That'll be the cause. You at least have to present a theory for service connection. If you do not, then they will default to the direct theory. Or if you get an advocate CMP examiner, sometimes they can make an inference, but that's the exception and not the rule. Typically, examiners will not provide a causal relationship unless you claim MUCME as the cause because it's medically explained. So if it's medically explained, it's granted if it's a qualifying condition. But if it is explainable, then MUCMEs are typically the only time, and I'm using absolute, but typically they're the only time that the examiner will provide an alternative cause, unless it's something like congenital or, something like that. Thank you, Jackie. I appreciate that. Yes, and I'm not a TikToker either. Let me see here. I know that GC Jarhead put Jackie's information up here, so I'm going to leave this up here for a few minutes, just to make sure that everybody gets this, because I promote other content creators all the time, probably to my detriment, but I don't care, just because I care more about getting the message out there. So I know that the CivDiv is trying to get you and I on the same channel. And I will pin the comment, yes, whenever I go live or whenever I stop the stream, I will pin the comment. But guys, that's about all I got in me. My wife is currently contacting me to eat. So I'd like to thank everybody tonight. And I would like to kind of summarize what's going down. Luna's waking up and she's quite mad. She's mad at me lately. She's very, very sad face that I did not get her a second pup cup today. So she's very upset. She's standing right next to me, trying to get my attention. But what I talked about tonight was I talked about the misunderstanding of the evidence in the rating narrative being, if it's not there, it's a clear and unmistakable error. That's just factually not accurate. It's not. The short form narrative allows the rater to not put all the evidence in there. So you can't use that as your sole reason for challenging I would call it a negative rating transaction of some kind. Also, we talked about the NPI numbers, and we talked about private DBQs and how private DBQs get disqualified due to the numerous reviews for authenticity, credibility, and sufficiency. So check out the person that's filling out your information and make sure that their NPI information matches what the DBQ says in this section down here, whatever it might be. This is just the knee one, but make sure that their phone address, specialty information, that it all matches up, and so does their credentialing should match up with the NPI index. What else? Yeah, I talked about CUNEs and what they are and what they are not. And I also talked about the fact that my dumbass is going to force myself to go to this, Military Influencers Conference. And it's in 235 days. So I think I can either get medicated to the point of being able to go, or I can gather the courage to go. But I am going, and it's going to be in Tampa. So I'm going to try to get that signed up and going. And it's going to be influencer. That's me. We're going to set an agenda. And hopefully the goal is to talk to Papa Bear Doug Collins and sit on his lap like he's Santa Claus. And I'm going to ask him questions. I'm going to try. I will not shy away from that. So, but anyway, guys, that is about all I have for you tonight. Now, I am sorry I didn't get to all the questions. I do apologize. I'd like to thank everybody for donating. I'd like to thank everybody for, becoming members of the channel. I appreciate that. It's not required. None of the donations or the memberships are required, but they are appreciated. So I'd like to thank you all for that. And let me see here. Let me try to figure out if there's any other questions down here. Yeah. And Flexman, this is true to a point, right? It's true to a point. But if you don't know what you don't know, then, sometimes the system does not do a good job at telling people what's wrong with their stuff. So it can't be generalized. Like, I know that you had a good experience, but it's hard to generalize that to other people, because if that were the case, then I wouldn't have a channel, right? So it's hard, man. So don't give people some leniency here, some, that it might be different for them, and just it can be challenging. Thank you for your time. Thank you to Luna and your family for letting us steal your time. And hey, guys, I appreciate it. But with that, that's all I have for you tonight. Look forward in the future. I think Jackie, myself, and the Civ Div might have something working out in the future to where you can ask us all questions, to where I think we'll all go live on our own platforms, where we will all have, gosh. Thank you for the support. On behalf of John Michaels and John Michaels We Trust. The chat doesn't go away. It'll stay on the video, especially if I put it up like this. It'll stay on the video whenever it turns into a video, when it changes from a video to a live. Guys, this is Chopper. Come on, it's too easy. John Michaels. I wonder if John Michaels is tearing into that dude that I told him to tear into. But yeah, no worries. We're going to make sure that you get, final answer. This is Jackie's, I guess, Nurse Jackie's channel, I guess, as GC Jarhead says it. Please go over there, check it out. It is, I will have to check it out, because I didn't know you had a YouTube channel, but we will definitely check it out. And we'll talk to you later. I'll pin the comment. I'll pin this comment. I'll try to, I don't know. I'll pin this comment after it processes. So give me about 5 or 10 minutes for it to process. Anyway, guys, Raider out.